Hi everyone, we're back, and I think today we're going to finally finish this zebra animation. It's been quite a journey to work on this thing. Okay, so what I wanted to run over is what you want to do. You always do your audio first, and that's why the audio was the first part of the tutorial. For this reason, so you don't have to keep listening to it over and over again, especially with here where I have these the captioning text running below. So see, I've got the words are going to highlight. I've already went ahead and did that, and I've done that by keyframes, by taking it, like here's the keyframe. Take your keyframe and your text, insert a keyframe, and then you can just select one of the text, and as you can see, it's red. I've changed it to red, whereas these are the normal black. So I've already went through and did all of that in the very beginning. I did that way ahead of time. So it all runs in sync, so I don't have to keep listening to it over and over again. I can find my way around now as to where these letters are lit up at. And I don't need to have the audio constantly listening to that song over and over again. I learned my lesson on that. So it's always best to lay down your audio first, then you don't have to keep going over. If there's any changes that are cued on the audio, then you want to get that down ahead of time so you don't have to keep listening to it. Okay, before I get into the whole making of the animation, I do want to bring in some new people into this. I've already created a bunch of layers here. I've got my zoo background. That's where I'm going to have my caged animals in the background. The gates are going to be like the bars on the zoo. I've got zinnias 1, path, zebra, zinnias 2. Now the reason I've layered them like this is because the zebra and the path are going to be together, because the text reads, zip through the zigzagged zinnias. So how I'm going to illustrate that is I'm going to have a zigzag path. I'm going to draw a zigzag path, and I'm going to have zinnias on either side. So some of the zinnias are going to be in front of the path, and some are going to be behind the path. And then the zebra, so that's zinnia 1, that's going to be behind because it's on a lower level than the path and the zebra. And then zinnia 2s are going to be the ones that are in front of it. So the zebra is going to go back and forth through the zinnias. I did an okay job on my zinnias. I wanted to talk a little bit about that too, a little bit about how I drew the zinnia. Now let me pull out my reference material. You might be tempted, now if you come from a background from Illustrator or freehand, you might, it's vector drawing as this is, and you might be tempted to, let me find the zinnia and pull it out here. You might be tempted to build it like you would in there. And if you look at this clip art, there's little circles. So you might be tempted to draw, to make it look as realistic as you can. You might want to, like, let me get a good black and like a pink, or let's just use this orange. This is another cool thing about Flash too, while we're on this subject before we get into it. You can select right out of a picture, out of a bitmap or a JPEG, whereas I don't believe you can do that in Illustrator. You can't. You have to just be, it's all vector or nothing. So here I can just select the actual color from the photo. So you might, back to this, you might be tempted to like draw this, there's little shapes in there. So you might be tempted to like make a little circle. Oh, that's way too thick. Let me select that, and let's turn our stroke way down. There. You may be selected to like make a little shape, and then you want to take that shape and like paste them all around a circle. And yeah, you probably would end up with a more realistic flower, but here's the thing with one of the downfalls of Flash is that if there's a lot of things happening, it slows it down. It slows down the animation, it like clogs it up. So you want to kind of simplify, and it's almost like an approach of pen and ink. Well, this is definitely a cartoon approach. But here's the original zinnia that I drew. So it's kind of semi-realized. And then I'm going to close up this bitmap and look at my objects. I made them also into a group. I made another symbol, zinnia group. I have zinnia 1 and zinnia 2. And zinnia 2, the only difference is it's the same zinnia, it's shaped a little differently. So then what I did, I made another symbol called zinnia group. And these are just those same two zinnias, but I've used that tint tool, which is another thing that is comes in handy, Okay, that's the grass. I've got that layer locked. So I'm going to use my eye to disappear to find my layers. So like this is the original color. No, I've used a tint. So I've got it on this color. There's a pull down. It's tint. If you're in 4 or 5, it's probably by default over here and by your libraries. I like it down here for some reason. I just like it better that way. So on all of these, this is the same flowers. I've just used the different tints. On this, I've used a blue tint at 46%. On this, I've used a yellow tint at 46%. And I can cut back on my drawing that way, and it's all in one symbol, ready to go. Okay, back to about the clogging of the simplifying things. I wanted to show another example of what I did. I did draw, what did I call it, pillar? Yeah, I did draw a pillar because I have the gate, but I draw the pillar. I'm going to double click and we're going to look at this symbol. Here's another example of where I did that. Now if you wanted to draw, you know, bricks, you might be tempted to take, you know, and draw square bricks. Let's get these colors. You know, you might be tempted to just, and if you're working in Illustrator or if you're working in freehand, you know, that might be the way to go because you're going to end up with a more realistic thing. So you might want to take that, draw a brick, select it, group it, use your, also if you use Control, if you have your select tool, it's another shortcut, use your Alt, and there's a hotkey on on the Mac, I don't know, but on PC it's Alt, and you can just grab and make more of them. So you might be tempted to actually build this out and make it look really, really realistic, but again, all these little symbols, you're going to have a problem when you go to animate. There's too much stuff that Flash has to calculate. It's going to slow down your animation, it's going to clog up your animation. So this is I just took a key from old pen and ink. A lot of times in pen and ink, you like partially realize something. So I've just kind of drawn some little shapes going around in here, and just to kind of simulate the brick. It'll look like a brick, you know, when it's all together. You're going to get the idea. Your eye will fill in the blank, but you're not creating all this intense things that Flash has to keep calculating and drawing. So simplify it when you can, if you're gonna animate, which obviously you probably would be in Flash. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab, since I've opened up in my tabs, I've got the letter Z, which is our main project we're working on. I've got the letter G, because these bars I'm going to grab, and I'm going to grab these giraffes also. I've got my ABC Sesame, because I'm going to grab a few things out of here too, the elephant, and I've got, Colors of the World, that's something I want to show later in the animation. But here's how we go. So since I'm in the letter Z, but I have these other tabs open, I can come over to my library, pull down, and I've got all the libraries that are open available to me. I've got letter Z, letter G, ABC Sesame, and Colors of the World. So I'm going to go first into letter G. And I'm going to get everything I want out of the letter G. First of all, I'm going to get the gate. I'm going to pull the gate on stage. Oops, undo. I don't want it on text too. I'm actually going to relock my text area. I guess it doesn't matter because I'm going to end up deleting it anyway. But I'm just going to grab one of these blank Zinnia layers. And just put in a keyframe. I'm going to hit select the frame, hit F6, because you always need a keyframe in order to make something happen. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my gate on stage. I'm going to pull my giraffe. I have giraffe and giraffe group, and giraffe gobble, and giraffe walk, which is something we're going to do with the zebra too. We're going to make all these different sorts of symbols. But I'm going to guess in this case I'm just going to do giraffe group. I'm going to grab giraffe group onto the stage. Ooh, they're huge. And I think that's it for my G, letter G that I wanted to get. I'm going to go back up into my pull down library. In ABC Sesame, I'm going to access that library. Now I can see that over here that gorilla is an animated symbol. And you can play it in here, but I think it's gorilla's wiggling his hips. So we don't, if he's going to be wiggling his hips, maybe we don't want to put him in. Yeah, he's wiggling his hips. So maybe we don't want the crazy gorilla wiggling his hips. But there's another way around that too. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it. I'm going to unlock all the layers. I'm just going to select these. Select, shift click, and select. So I'm going to get all the frames. I'm going to copy them. Control C is copy. Because I don't want it to use the whole symbol where it's rolling into all this other stuff here. So I could either bring it in and then delete these frames, or I can just grab the very first 3 keyframes before he starts moving. Obviously here is where he's moving all around. And then I can copy, but I can also copy frames if I want to make him move. So I think I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say copy frames. And then I'm going to go back into my library for the letter Z, new symbol. I'm going to name it gorilla. Gorilla. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to select my first keyframe. I don't have to make the blank keyframes. It'll do that on its own for me. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to say paste frames. And then I have Mr. Gorilla not wiggling his hips, just moving, just standing still. So I'm going to grab all of him. I want to, this little crosshairs thing, that's your center. So I usually like to keep them right on the center place. Okay, so now I've got Gorilla in my library. I did want to get a couple other things out of that library though. So I'm going to come over here. Let's go to scene 1. This is where I'm dragging all my library items on the stage. Gorilla. I'm going to go back to my ABC alphabet thing, go in my graph. I called it graphics in this case. Owl, no, not owl. What was the other thing I wanted to get out of here? The elephant. I want to use the elephant because you definitely see elephants at the zoo. And I'm going to drag the elephant on stage. Now, it looks as if the elephant is moving too. Well, I'll deal with that later. I'll do it the other way so you can see the other way. The reason this has a black background is just because it has a black background in the movie. When he comes on stage, he's clear. He has a clear background. So for right now, I think that's all I want to get out of there. I'm going to go back to my letter Z library. And I'm going to close up my objects thing, and where has it put it? Has it put it in the objects thing? Here, it has already put it in my objects library because I was working there. So it's in my library. I have elephant. I can use the elephant. I can use a giraffe. And giraffe, it brought giraffe group and giraffe over because giraffe is part of giraffe group. So it brought both of these over. So that's a cool thing that Flash does. So now they're all in my letter Z library. I can come and select this keyframe, select all, and just delete it. And they're still in the library, so I can use them any way that I want to.